Good morning, and welcome back to another episode of Rise and Thrive with Dr. J. Nicole, where we are rising in faith and thriving in purpose. And in honor of Valentine's Day, we have dedicated the entire month of February to love, and we're coining it the month of love. So this month, you're going to hear from a couple different subject matter experts, if you will, couples, and we're going to talk about different things as it relates to love and healthy relationship, whether you're married, engaged, single, dating, wherever you are, we have something for you. Also, we want to hear from you. I am inviting you to send in any of your relationship questions, which will be broken down and processed here as we are recording. And I'm going to do my best to give you some healthy feedback that's going to help you to get the love you deserve and desire, and even healing, because some of us do need healing to be able to go into that next step and to be in the space to give and receive love. And so today I am joined again by the future doctor, Jaslyn Northcross. And so today is going to be a little bit different. Last time when she visited us, she spoke more about her doctoral journey. But today you're going to hear from her in her area of expertise. She's a sex therapist, a social worker by training. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about like stress and the impact that they have on desire and maybe some ways to rewire it. So this conversation reframes desire because it's an adaptive response and it's not just personal or relational failure. Sometimes it is other things that are going on that our body is signaling us. So this is an opportunity for you all to lean in with curiosity, to not judge yourselves or your partners, but more than anything, just get more understanding of something that can happen to any of us. So, welcome back, Jazz.
Thank you so much for having me back. It's always a joy to sit down and talk to you. And I'm so happy to talk about one of my favorite subjects. So I'm ready to get
Let's
into
talk
it.
about it. Well, tell people a little bit, since this is your favorite subject, how did you get into being a sex therapist?
Oh, I love this question. I started out, I just wanted to be a therapist, down therapy through social work. As you know, we have our clinical side of our practice. And then one of my first supervisors, actually a Howard alum, really encouraged me to always, we have to do our continuing education credits, and she always encouraged me to take trainings that were aligned with things I was just personally interested in. So I was always interested in sexual health, human sexuality, and I started taking trainings and just how to talk about sex in therapy, like with clients and just different things around arousal and desire. And I was just like, this is so cool. So I just learned about you can get specialized in sex therapy, and this was a whole lane. It's exciting. Like I feel like it's one of the things where in our profession we're always learning. And then with human sexuality, I mean, it's just you're never. Even now, I shy away. I'm like expertise. I'm like, right, what does expert even mean? Because there's just so much to learn. So it's just I'm happy to be here.
Yes, I'm happy to have you here. You're absolutely right. Like it's impossible to know everything, right? So I also think that this is one of those topics that a lot of people might stray away from. It happens to people, right? Where their desire changes or just really fluctuates. And society, gives a messaging that it's a problem. What's really happening? What might be impacting a person's like level of desire or libido?
So I love that you started with looking at the societal influences. I think it's something that we don't always like we may not be consciously aware of, but it does impact what we think sex is supposed to look like, what we think our sexuality is supposed to look like. So sometimes there's, the fluctuations that you have are natural. The way that you have sex and when you first start, maybe at your sexual debut is not going to be the same. You're going to have sex throughout your life. Even in a relationship, when you first get together, the way that you're having sex with your partner is going to change. And those fluctuations are expected. And oftentimes they're normal, but we don't get a lot of representation about that. Like a lot of what you see in the media discourse, whether it's film, TV, even porn, you don't see the fluctuation. It just kind of tends to follow just a script, if you will. So it causes, it can cause a lot of personal distress for the individual, for the relationship, because there's just not a lot of education there for folks, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you for that. So, can you talk a little bit more about the impact of chronic stress, right? We live in a very fast-paced society, and a lot of us are stressed and don't know it. And we're more married to our jobs, the things that are causing the
Mhm.
stress, likely, than we are our partners, right? So, what would you say the role of chronic stress is? What that role is upon desire, libido, and so on?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. So when it comes to chronic stress could be one of those things that definitely bring desire down. It's kind of hard for some folks to move to a place of desire, even to put their mind, because desire really is a more of a mental kind of state of mind. Like arousal is where you talk about the physiological differences, which is something I think is just important distinction because sometimes people get that a little confused. But when it comes to desire, if you're I kind of think about it like your mental highway. If it's bogged down with stress, then it can get hard to kind of get past that. You also think about like identity. Some folks of different identities are going to have different types of stressors. So when I'm in work, I get really curious about the sources of those stress. And then if the person is in a relationship, whether that's a purely just sexual relationship or a monogamous intimate relationship, like whatever the case is, I'm really curious to know in these relational systems, how is that system dealing with the stress? So like I guess a more simple way of saying it is like when you're stressed out, are you able to come talk to the person you're having sex with? Can you talk to them about these stressors? Does that seem to alleviate? Do you feel seen? Do you feel heard? Or do you feel like you can't even talk to this person? That doesn't produce a useful result? So maybe you're holding it in. Maybe you're talking to someone else on the sides. I just get really curious about what are we doing with the stress, because stress is a part of life. Unfortunately, to some degree, you're going to have to be able to manage the stress as well as your sexual needs. So I just get super curious about what are we doing with the stress and all of those feelings related to
Okay.
them.
So, can you talk a little bit more about the impact of the partner, whether they're a person that it's safe to talk with versus not, and how that might
Mm,
impact desire?
yeah. Yeah. So there's say, for example, it's someone that you can talk to and you feel, for folks that are feeling seen, like I said, they feel heard, they feel valued, they feel like they can trust, there's emotional trust and safety in the relationship. And typically you'll expect some desire or to support desire. Now, of course, there are, like genetic and biological and sex differences. So I certainly don't want to, I don't want to make it seem like this is like a blanket statement for everyone. But generally speaking, if the person that you're having sexual relationships with is also a good support in other areas, then that would support desire. Whereas if you're not getting that, if you feel belittled, if you feel like this person is draining, or I can't talk to this person about the stress, or they're invalidating me, or there's a lot of confusion when I try to bring up these stressors, then you may find that you're not as motivated to feel desire or sexual interest with that person, because there is this, what is it called? It's like, Mm.
Okay.
Incentives. Like, desire works with
Okay.
incentives, and if there's no incentive, then that desire for what? Like, not to be crass, but it is what
Okay.
it is kind of thing.
Walk us through what it looked like, what good incentives look like that would yield itself to increased desire or arousal.
Well, I love that. That is so personal. Like, not personal, like, "Oh, girl, don't ask me that question," but I mean personal to the person, to the human in the relationship, right? So that question is very curious, it's very open, and it's something that I invite people to start to explore for themselves. Like, what makes the sex good for you? Because if we can identify that, then you can kind of work backwards and figure out, okay, then how do you increase this desire? Because desire doesn't just spontaneously occur. So, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the media scripting around sex will have folks thinking it's just supposed to be the spontaneous, like, spark that just happens. Now, that is the case for some people, and there's different types of desire systems. So some people are what we call more spontaneous, where they may not need a ton of gas, if you will, to get their desire flowing, whereas other people, no, no, no. And then for a lot of people fall into this category where they're a little bit more responsive. So I'm always encouraging people like, what makes it good for you, and we figure that out, then we can start talking about how to increase that
Okay.
desire.
All right. So, without getting too sciencey or technical, right? Can we talk about like what's happening in the nervous system and like when we're stuck in survival mode and how that might, because we're talking to the people who are high achieving. They want a lot out of
Mm,
life. They're very educated, very successful. They're people, hardworking people, any number of those categories. And it
mhm,
doesn't mean that you have to have a certain level of education to fall into this category. These are people who care very
totally.
much about the work that they do. And even for some, their identity might be tied to what they do and their
Mhm.
output. And so when they're stressed in either one of those home fronts or the work front, what that does in trying, especially if both are a little shaky, right? And they feel like they're in survival mode, trying to hold everything together. What's happening at that time in the nervous system?
So many things. Before I get into my answer, I wanna make sure I understand the last piece of what you said. Are you thinking of situations where someone is high achiever and are experiencing stress, like, in
Yes.
multiple areas? So maybe work,
Yeah.
maybe family. Got you, and we're looking at where is the desire. Got you, got you, got you. Okay, without getting too scientific-y, I love that. So, we talk about stress could be something that's gonna drive down your desire, and I only put an asterisk next to could because then I think, "Okay, well, what is your gender? What is your race? Like, what is your relationship status?" So, I don't wanna do like a, "Oh, if it's this, then it's that." But at any rate, where you wanna get at or where I would start to think about is getting really curious to know around what is the person's goal? Is there like a goal in mind? Is it something that they're thinking maybe a little narrow on about what is a good sexual
Okay.
outcome? So a lot of us that can get into like culture, kind of what are the expectations around that? I get really curious too about if something goes unexpected during a sexual experience. Maybe your body doesn't do what you think it's going to do. Maybe their bodies aren't doing what you expect them to do. How do you respond to this unpredictable or unexpected event? I get curious. I get really curious about that because understanding that helps me as a clinician start to understand like what is happening here. We've talked earlier too about some of the social and cultural messages around it. Sometimes people have, I don't want to say issues, but they may be interested or attracted to things that they can't make sense of, or they have like maybe a moral disconnect or moral, sometimes they might call it like a moral incongruence. So you're into something that maybe you may have got some negative religious messaging around that may have told you you shouldn't be or you can't be into that. Uh, there's I find when I hear that question, I find that I have more questions, but it really where I find people land is where they're getting more clarity around those things and then realizing that you get the power to make your own sexual identity that's aligned with your values. It's so I try to move people more into like that way of thinking and really trying to understand like what does it mean for this to be good? Like do you win at sex? Is
Mm.
this, like, something you're
Mm.
trying to achieve? Like, so kinda getting just trying to understand, like, what does that especially when we know that your sexual life is dynamic and it's not static. So, is your target always moving? Could that be what some of the distress is? It just more questions, more exploration for
Yes,
sure.
and I can hear your clinical brain going, you're like, I don't have enough here to properly assess and give a full answer, right? So, like, I mean, it could have been fun to like, but this might have sounded too much, too academic to have a example, or as we would say in class, a vignette to to accompany this, like the said person, right? Like, and what their life looks like to paint a picture.
Can tell you though, I can tell you this, even with the limited information that we have, because this is, I appreciate the example, and it is somewhat of a vignette. But with the what I could say is that the way that you lay it out, it definitely sounds like the stress, performance anxiety could definitely be at play. A lot of sexual related dysfunction and issues, oftentimes there's some relation to anxiety in some way. So that knowing that is where I start to get into like the expectations around things. Like I've worked with clients where, someone's penis doesn't maintain their erection or someone's vulva isn't lubricated to that in a way that, where it feels pleasurable. Are you are you able to speak? Like, for a lot of Black women, they will not they won't speak out and acknowledge their own sexual pain and discomfort. So that can also add to more of those stressors you're talking about. Certainly, if your expectation of yourself is that you're supposed to be hot and ready and sexy and fine and all this with like, but there's no education around like, okay, then what happens if for whatever reason, like your body, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with your body. It's just doing natural body things. Do we have the language? Do we have the educate? Like what, or does it come down to like negative judgment on yourself? Like inadequacy, and especially for like someone that's high achieving and is used to getting success, if you can't control, we are limited in our ability to control what our body is going to do, it can, so I don't want to talk around, so I'm not trying to do the clinical talk around thing, but it just, me, girl, I want to have a whole bunch more questions before I start.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much in there because what I'm also hearing is that a very intimate thing is happening, but then one might not be safe within themselves, depending on the type of thoughts that they have, and then the reaction of their partner. So that's like double
Mhm,
safety concern. So how can you be present? And we know that the body keeps score. The body will react a lot of times before we've registered it up here and can label it.
mhm, mhm. Can
Yeah,
I say something
yeah.
about that? The what you're getting at too also can come down to like sexual shame for some people. So depending on, someone's history, their how do I say this? Your You can have, like, they call it, like, arousal non-discordance is what it's called. So, because I mentioned earlier, arousal is physical, right? So arousal is like an erection, is lubrication, and your body can become aroused without feeling that desire, like that desire. So, the old school way of thinking was like from like Freud, would be like, "Oh, there's these sexual drives, and it's just this biological thing. When the body does this, it's just," but we've advanced and we understand that there can be this non concordance, excuse me. So attaching that to shame, there are times where people have experienced sexual trauma where their body did the thing that bodies are wired to do, but that did not mean that they wanted that. So when it comes down to like, if someone has moved past that event and now they're in a new relationship, but their wiring, to your point, body keeping the score, like the body, they may also still be in that space of like, just because my body does this doesn't mean I really want this. My body has done this and now there's some shame around that. So just, it's always, and then to your point, if you are not in a space where you have like, addressed that with yourself, you're in a really difficult spot to be able to talk about that with a partner. And then for the partner who may not know, I've certainly seen that before where I've had clients who have partners who have some type of trauma that they may not know, and this is certainly isn't blaming, but they may not know all, but you can see the signs. So it could be really, I make it sound like so challenging, like there's no hope, because I certainly believe, there's hope, there's healing, there's ways that, and then we've seen it happen personally, professionally, but it's something to be aware of though, certainly if you're questioning your own sexual desire fluctuations, or if you're trying to help somebody who might be experiencing.
Like, so, like, what would healthy look like for the individual, the environment they're in, and what would it look like in the relationship?
So the things that I would track with healthy, certainly around consent, but being like consent is a little bit consent is not as always as simple as yes and no. Sometimes people will engage in unwanted sex. Maybe they feel out of obligation. And I'm not here to judge. I definitely promote enthusiastic consent and I encourage folks to lean into their yeses and honor their nos. So the healthiness of, you know, understanding your no and being okay with your no and feeling that as an individual, your no doesn't become like now you're an issue. Like if you don't have the desire, you're not the issue. Like we can examine and try to understand maybe what's going on with the desire, but you're not the issue. And if we frame it that way, then we erase like I guess, the experiences of folks that fall on the asexual spectrum. So like not having desire is not automatically a problem, right? So I would say, like I said, one, the consent, the respect to feel that you are empowered to have the kind of sexual experiences that you want to have and not feel coerced or pressured to engage in things that you don't want to do. So I think that would track through all 3. Also being able to recover. Like I promote like openness. Like if you're interested in something, try it. And if you don't like it, you don't have to do it again. It's just, like and that I know it sounds kind of simple, but sometimes folks are afraid to try things because of what that might mean about their identity, what that might mean about their sexuality. And, I'm always curious to explore that with folks because, is that if you're good with staying in your lane, then you're good. I'm not here to tell you to get out of your lane. But if you're only in your lane because you're afraid of the other or you're afraid of what that might mean, then we might be able to play with that because how do you to what degree do you want fear to control or dominate your sexual experiences and your sexuality and your sexual life? Especially if I'm thinking about this as like liberatory practices, then it gets kind of tricky to be like, okay, are we really feeling liberated? Are we really feeling embodied if we are letting fear and concern what others might think or what this might mean? So yeah, I love this question. Do you have thoughts about it? I would love to hear your
Yeah,
perspective.
yeah. So I was just thinking too, one, a person's own views about sex and like what the framework, the foundations are, what lessons or what definitions and judgments did they hear growing up from their environment, society, and all of that that frames things, right? Because there's so many things that when I think
Mhm.
back as a kid, I was like, what adults were talking like this for these conversations to be had? I just think about, like, formative years, like, early, and people were saying things already, you know what I mean, about sex.
Your
Yeah,
peers?
peers and some of them, because 'cause I'm like, I know I was more definitely a little more sheltered, but, some people, it was just like, "Huh? Like, what are y'all even talking about?" Whether it
Yeah.
was advanced for our age or it was demeaning towards women, hate speech, all of those types of things, right? And just the judgment that's automatically there. Something that was
Yeah.
designed to be so beautiful, so intimate, right?
Mhm.
There's
Mm.
so much around it. There's so much around it. And then just even when I grew up when I guess you would say a version of the sexual revolution was happening. We had Salt and Pepper, Let's Talk About Sex. You had Madonna doing her thing. And so these are all
Mhm.
images I'm seeing and all the Miss Independent Black woman, Adina Howard, you know.
The messages okay, I love that you're saying this because
Go
things are coming up
ahead.
in my mind, around particularly around Black girls, the messages that we get and how a lot of those messages are mixed. Because you're right, you get these images of what Black sexuality looks like, oftentimes in the media, music. Well, music is a form of media. You also get messages from your family, you get messages from, if you're affiliated with a church or religious institutions, oftentimes we are getting these mixed messages starting when we're younger and then we continue to get messages throughout life while you're going through your whole sexual development and then getting messages that are just like which way do I go, like everyone who's socialized as a girl is supposed to keep the goodies to herself, people are socialized as boys are supposed to go out
Which
and
does
get it,
not
and
align
then it's
because
like okay but
somebody's
like
got to be given the goodies for
does
the
not
boys
align.
to get.
Right, doesn't
Go ahead.
align, and then when you think about what that looks like in relationships, like, people start to follow certain scripts. Okay, well, think about if there's a relationship where there's, like, a discrepancy desire, right? So one person wants it more, the other person than the other person. That puts people in a situation where the person that wants it more times is the guy. This ain't me coming down on the men. It's just this is the data that we have, but also with the scripts, how folks are normal, how folks are socialized. Oftentimes it's in a heterosexual relationship. Oftentimes it's the guy. I guess I should say the masculine person. Then the other side, that makes the person with that's the guy has to always like ask. So they have to put themselves out there to be vulnerable to say like, will you give me this affection? Will I can I get access to sex today? But then the other person now, whether they want the power or not, they have the power to like, I'm the arbiter of sex. Like I either say yes and then I do it or no, and now we like don't do it. Like and for a lot of people in that position, they don't want that power. Like a lot of the people that I talk to, they don't want to be the one that says thumbs up or thumbs down. But oftentimes the other one doesn't want to be the person that says, please, please, can I have some more? Like nobody really likes it. I'm not to be silly or
Yeah.
offensive, but I see it a lot. I see it, that ain't helping desire either, where it's just like, how do we get
And
this
nobody
thing
wants to
going?
be rejected, whether you're more of the, program to accept the invitation to
Mm,
engage or you're the
totally.
person, initiating it. So there's so much that's in there, but that's why it's important to talk about those things in the beginning before it gets too deep because then like in the beginning, let's be honest,
Mhm.
when people are dating in the beginning, people will spill their soul to people
It's
are
true.
much more
No,
open
it's
in the
true.
beginning. They will answer, excuse me, the hard questions because at that point they want to be liked. They don't have much to lose either. So they're more likely
Yes.
to be the
Yes.
most vulnerable in the beginning before they feel like, oh, I don't want to lose them. So let me just, yeah,
Totally. Totally. It's that new relationship energy. So there's a lot of activities around like that are gonna bond and kind of make the connection solid. And then as time goes on, that you feel like, oh, I got my boo. We locked in. But as we said earlier, the way that your body is experiencing desire, because your body is wired for pleasure. Bodies are wired for pleasure. It's just kind of on us to investigate and figure out, like, ooh, what feels good. So we know that's going to evolve. So the connection we made in that new relationship energy stage, it's not like a set it and forget it. You have to like you talk about it, but these are ongoing conversations and kind of having it in your relationships where it's kind of the normal thing we do. Like we can chat about sex. We're not the kind of folks that have sex and then we never talk about it. Like it's I encourage people like just chat about it. It doesn't have to be the same way all the time. It certainly doesn't have to be like an assessment or an evaluation. It could be collaborative, interesting, fun, exciting. I definitely try to frame it that way and support people with having those discussions in that way. Not to bash the media, but we don't see a lot of that. Like a lot of people are learning how to have sex from porn, like just straight up, and there's no conversation. Oftentimes there's no like, hey, how that feel, or do you like, or adjusting, like the adjustments that they make in that form of media, that's like, as a viewer, the audience doesn't see that. Like the production crew, the porn performers, all that, they do that off scene and then they create this package. So I'm not saying porn is bad. Like I'm not that therapist that tells you it's bad. If that's your belief, I'm not going to tell you not to believe that. But we have to be real about this as a packaged product, and you can't base your expectations on like for yourself or for your partner from what you're seeing on your TV or computer screen. It's just you're going to set yourself up.
yeah. And something that I heard someone say about the impact of the P word and relationships is that there's never any
Mhm.
rejection for men. And so it can
Never.
build this false sense of entitlement and even the way that they go about
Hmm.
it, I guess, depending on the type you're watching, right? Consuming,
Right.
and it changes the brain. So, right, that's my only concern with it is watching it and not realizing how it's shaping and rewiring the way that we view intimacy and the way that we view sex. And some of it could
Hmm.
easily veer on the side of unhealthy.
Yeah, definitely what's being depending, because okay, so there's porn's a big
Right. I was like,
category
that's
and
why I
there
said
are
depends on
ethical
what type
there
people are
yeah,
consuming.
there are depending totally, because there are ethical, black centered, like I don't know the proper term, companies, producers, organizations, whatever the appropriate term is. So I definitely we're speaking broadly. Now, from a broad sense, the majority of the stuff out there is created for the straight white male gaze. So, like, if you're looking for something and you find it arousing, desirable, whatever, like I said, ain't here to judge, but it is important to be aware, like, just conscious about, like, is what I'm seeing, is that pleasurable? Like, who is that pleasurable for? Like, who's really getting something out of this? And how much of that do you want to bring into like your bedroom? It's like something just to consider. To your point too about like you don't see the rejection of the man, you don't see that, you don't see women in that even operating in that way to tell them no or not like that or slow it down or grab the lube or I'm getting a cramp. Like, things that actually happen in real life. I mean, these are things that happen. It happens. Bodies do what
Yeah.
bodies do. This feels real good. We need to grab the pillow. This is sexual communication. Baby, hold on. Grab it,
You
wedge it right there. There we that, it's teamwork. It's teamwork. But we don't see that. Like we don't see that scripted. So then when people are experiencing it in the real world, a lot of times it's that panic of it's like it's me or I just gotta grit through this and bear this. Oh, it feels kind of good. It's just don't no matter that my leg is cramped up and I'm saying I could bring humor into it, but a lot of times that is people's experience. Of course, I even hear myself talking. I feel like I'm speaking very much, of course, from my perspective. So for our other listeners, of different identities, I'm certainly not trying to erase it. I just want to, I want to be respectful for that because I'm like, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that, but other people's bodies be doing things too. I can only feel what my body feels.
really and truly, I believe that like desire, it starts with safety. Like, do I feel safe with this person? And it starts well before we get into the bedroom. It starts with that consistency before, right? Like, are you doing what you say you're going to do? Like, actions and words aligning, right? Like, are you a regular presence in my
Mhm,
life? Are you here pouring in? Or are you just kind of here to take and just like on a mission? You know what I mean? So, all of those things. So, you do have to pay attention to what you feel
mhm,
while you're with a person. If you're not at ease, that's probably not somebody you want to keep moving with or you want to
right.
take more time to connect with them, right? So I really do think that that's important. And I know for me, emotional safety is hugely important, like to that, or I will shut down. And I've been
Mhm, mhm,
in the past where I didn't realize that that was what had happened, that I had shut down.
mhm. So context, right? How do I even say this? Context always matters for folks that have that desire. Like, that your fire is going to get lit when you feel that emotional connection, then that is always it's important to keep an eye on that because if that's the thing, like if you think about like there's gas that you need and there's other things that are brakes, right? So if your gas is emotional connection, then a break may feel like disconnection in the relationship. Like we have not talked. Like we haven't connected in a meaningful way. I'm not into it. So for some people, when that's the case, especially my busy clients, then we start talking. I start thinking and helping them think about like buffering events or even activities, things that you might be able to do together that maybe feel intimate, but we're not the focus here isn't on penetration or sexual intimacy. It could just be that we're gonna check in. I want to know about how your week was. How was that project you've been working on? What's the progress on that? Anything I can do to support you? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's check in for the sake of checking in. We remember we talked about earlier in the relationship, people just do it so easy. All you want to do is lay up and talk to your boo, but then life goes on. So we have to find those moments to kind of come in and talk because in relation, like folks that are really happy in their relationships, they're chatting about a lot of things. Like they're not just chatting about problems. The majority of their interactions are delightful. Like, not trying to make it seem like they're not in real life, but like this is my dog. Like I'm having fun and like this person isn't
Right.
draining me. So If it feels like a drain, if every time you talk to your partner, it's just like, ugh, might be the issue with that might be why y'all have this
'Cause you got the
desire
ick.
issue here. And sometimes that it rightfully so, because one thing we know in relationships is there's gonna be
Right.
conflict. Like, there's gonna be breakdown, there's gonna be rupture. That's gonna happen in every relationship, intimate,
Yeah.
friendship, professional, familial, like, that is a normal occurrence. With that, there's opportunities for repair. And if the system is able to rupture and repair, and we can rupture and we can repair, and our ruptures bring us closer and we can go deeper and we understand each other better, that gives a really nice foundation to start to look at intimacy, to go deeper with intimacy and to try different things and to even repair if life events happen. People have kids, people experience loss, people have health
Mhm.
issues, people different kind of seasons. So like your desire can certainly be season related to different seasons and things. So if there's enough safety and trust in the relationship, it may not be everything you need to get, to get your wheels to get things lined up sexually, but it certainly puts you in a good position. Like you're in a better position for it if you feel emotional safety and connection in the
Yeah, that's
relationship.
so good, that's so good. And there's just so many other implications that we've kinda hinted at that
Mm,
go with, like, race as well as gender,
mhm,
right? And what's masculine, what's feminine, what's acceptable behavior, the do's and don'ts. Am I this if I do that or if I like that? All of these things that are associated with identity. And I think that's what makes it hard because
mhm,
it doesn't have to be an identity thing. So, what do you think makes people feel like they have to place a label on things or give it identity?
Girl, I'm be trying to figure out the answer to
Yeah.
that question
Yeah, for
myself.
real.
No, you know, hmm. So the social worker in me how do I even say this in a way that makes sense? Speaking from like a
Okay.
Western standpoint, which no, we love a system. We love to categorize things. We love to be able to say that the people that look like this belong over there. The other folks belong over here. I really think we have to at least be aware of that when we start to think about our own identities. There's a political aspect to identity. So what does that mean for you if your identity shifts? But we know that the nature of identity, like it's not static, like as most things in life, identity changes there, and that's okay. I think that the maybe, and this is freestyling here a little bit, come back. There's a difference between self and identity. So that as your identity changes and you're having the distress about it, I do start to wonder more about the relationship with yourself. Like, are you good with who you are? Because your identity can be shifted by outside forces, like just straight up. Like we are limited in our control of identity because identity is so much around perception. And like, if one group is up, that group is up. If that group is down, that group is down. But we don't, as individuals, we don't really get to choose who's up, who's down, who's in, who's out. Like there are things that are way above us. So I just hearing this question and thinking about it and like right now I'm like, oh, I think it's come back to so if you good with you and you're not, and we're talking about sex. So let me be clear. You're not violating other people's sexual boundaries. You're not violating consent because that's not cool. But if you're respecting other people's body autonomy and other people's sexual agency. And you're also getting to enjoy your own autonomy and your own sexual agency, and you can find peace with that. Then I think we don't, I would suggest that maybe the finding the perfect identity group. It's just my opinion. It might not. I
Yeah, because I mean, that's more pressure,
respectfully.
right? That's more
Respect.
pressure that's placed on it. And so, what I just got from that is that the real key to like intimacy and desire is a healthy relationship with self, healthy self concept, self
Yes.
worth, understanding your value so that it's not performative. You can actually be present and in the impact of power dynamics that are there. Because if you come in feeling less than already, the way you've positioned yourself, what you're
Mm,
willing to do, are you going to express your boundaries?
mhm.
Are you going to allow them to be pushed and say nothing, right? So I think that's really, really
Yeah,
important. And I love that you said that because if you're good with self and also value self, you can value someone else intimately. Because the person who doesn't value
exactly.
themselves and reckless with self, they're gonna be reckless with you.
100%. 100%. Now think about for Black peoples throughout the diaspora, how healing, affirming, empowering that is to have sexual experiences where you are embodied with yourself, the person that you're engaging with feels that way about them. You can experience that together and create a sexual life that you feel seen, you feel embodied, you feel safe, you feel powerful. You can experience pleasure free of shame, free of fear, free of judgment. Baby, we cooking now. Now we're
You
cooking.
right. It's and you cooking with grease and I don't know what else you need. All the seasoning, the marinade, you got it all. You said now we cooking. Yes, absolutely. For
Cooking
real.
now.
But people don't understand that because so
We
many
cooking.
people
There's
are outcome focused. The end,
yes.
the big.
Yeah, and unfortunately a lot of the sex stuff gets really penis centered too, which isn't like which puts a lot of pressure on the penis, the person with the penis. Like so it's just it's if we can move it away from that, like an outcome and just, or even shift it to where the outcome is more around, maybe it's around closeness. Maybe it's around safety. Maybe the outcome is to feel valued. Maybe the outcome is to feel liberated. Then that doesn't mean you have to have an orgasm. That doesn't mean that you have to finish. Like, that doesn't mean that there's, like, something has to happen. You look like you were gonna say something, and I wanna know what you're thinking.
And I think that maybe sometimes where the libido mismatch comes in, a person's outcome, how they view
Mhm.
sex, the purpose of sex. So if one is here for the experience and the other is there for the fireworks at the end, we have two different things. And
Mhm.
so there's already a disconnect. And if that's not discussed, where it's like you can get that, but understand that this is what they need. So let's do what's needed for both parties, right? So that it's healthy. And so
Absolutely.
that's more, I think that's something I've never thought about, even, being married before. I never talked about like, what are your views on sex? What is the point of it? Like, what is important to you? How did you learn about it? Like, and ask all those questions. And that would have probably told the both of us a lot about each other.
I'm sure. I'm totally sure. It's having the folks that come with that kinda curiosity and want to, like, you wanna get what you wanna get, but you also, like, want your partner to get what they want too. Like, the people that have that mentality, they take a more collaborative approach to intimacy. So, like, if you don't have that, the risk is the person who isn't feeling the desire, or the person whose body maybe isn't doing the thing that it's quote, quote, "supposed to do," that person may feel like they may feel blame, they may feel shame. The other person may feel who's not in that position, they may feel frustrated. They may feel like resentful. So now it becomes this power struggle about like, well, you're not doing it the way I need you to do it, or however, the flip to what you were describing, that's very collaborative. It's like we're gonna get what we want to get out of our sex life by working together. And the people that are like, I can't remember, they call it in the literature. There's some nerd term in the literature, but they're like sexual, like co co-producers or something like
That
that,
sounds
where it's
very
just like, oh,
academic for
they're just
sure.
super academic. It's like co-creators, sexual some academic term, but essentially that's what they're getting at. Like having those kind of that curiosity that, your pleasure matters, just starting from a position of you get to have pleasure. Like it doesn't matter how, race, your gender, your nationality, your ability, your physical abilities. Like you get to have pleasure. That's not something you have to earn. You don't have to show that you're deserving of pleasure. Like you your body was literally created. All of our bodies are wired for pleasure. So it's like, why would the creator wire us this way if you then had to like show that you're like good enough to feel good? Like you were born to feel good. So we talk about creating certain contexts or environments that will facilitate those good feelings, whether that's emotional, physical, things in the environment that you can work with your partner to create. So now it's like, oh, this is a vibe. Like I feel, do we need to change the lighting? Maybe the lighting's too harsh. If you don't want to see, if you don't want to be seen in that way, then we could just adjust the lighting. Like that's cool. Do you want to put on some music? Do you want to get maybe nice pajamas that make you feel really good? Do you want to put on some good cologne or perfume? Like what is it? Because you can add the sensuality into the experience, whatever that make your playlist. If it's a partner, you and your partner can make your little playlist. We can make it fun. What's in your sexual your sensual toolkit?
I
What
don't
are the
think that's
things that you just
wild.
need to have on
That's the
hand?
work. You're there to help them figure out that disconnect. And, assuming they're in a safe, loving, committed relationship, if
Mm,
that's what they're doing, like, cause that's their business. That's their
that's
business.
their business.
But yeah, absolutely. Because again, that goes back to the thoughts and views on sex, where for some people it's like, well, if I seem like I know too much, then they're gonna think XYZ about me. If I don't seem like I know enough, then they're going to think like there's the internal narrative, right? That's going on. But if you're
Yes,
talking about it
yes, yes.
and if you got doubts, then that means you need to talk about it. And you might not yet be ready if you're having those types of doubts, but it could also be that, some internal work is needed. That's what I'll say. Yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, no, absolutely. And I think I tend to talk about these things in relationships because I
Okay.
see a lot of couples. But as a lot of these things people can do, you can start to think about your sexual life, even if you're not partnered, even if you're not having sexual partners. We look at, masturbation is a form of sexual pleasure. It's very safe. And for some people, they have shame. They have things around that where they don't feel like that's clean or they feel like that's a sin. So there's even space to explore around that if you are not partnered. Maybe you have the desire for partnership, maybe you're in the in between, and maybe you're recognizing that you want to explore your pleasure, you want to learn more about your body. This masturbation certainly is a gives you, I don't know, I'm trying not to sound too technical. I'm like, it's a mechanism for that. My clients laugh when I start getting too technical. I just can't say it sometimes. But masturbation is there for you. The more you know about how your body's wired, then when you are in a partnered experience, that can boost your confidence. Like, it feels good and you can help somebody with that gap. Cause not, the expectation that a new partner is just going to know your body. Like that's not a fair expectation. But you're deserving of pleasurable experiences. So knowing your
And
body
I
is really
think you
helpful.
just connected something for me too, as you were speaking, how sometimes people have in their mind already what they think the experience should be, whether it's based on
Mm-hmm.
past things or something they've seen, but it's something that they've consumed a lot of time, or they just fantasize in their mind, which sometimes can be really
Mm-hmm.
unfair. And if you haven't voiced,
Mm-hmm.
this is what I like, it leaves the other person to try to guess and figure it out. It could even cause them anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And then even
Exactly.
how people communicate. And so just kind of tying it back to being like high stress, right? Like some people, they're stressed. They just want to get that relief, that release, because all the things that happen in the body, the dopamine, the oxytocin, the endorphins, all of that, that comes with this, sexual and intimate encounter. Some people are just trying to get to that to feel better. And then in the process,
Right.
they didn't really connect with their partner because it wasn't about that. It wasn't about the partnership. It was about them getting that relief that they needed. And for some people, they're like, okay, now I can think clearly, or that just reset their day. Not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but I think it's important to like know your partner, communicate that with them, and to not let that be the way that you cope, because you still have to deal with the things, because now your partner could become a tool because of high stress.
Mm-hmm. The coping. Yeah, yeah, the coping part of that stands out to me. We also see that sometimes with porn use. where someone is using that to, so from a clinical standpoint, I would want to look at what's driving the behavior. Like if it's anxiety, for example, then we would, let's address the anxiety and then try to get more of those positive experiences. Um, Kind of just like offset it. Cause yeah, if someone is going down that track, then it could, to your point, could definitely let me think, the person that is impacted by that behavior could start to feel used. And that is not gonna be, for long-term relationship satisfaction, sexual satisfaction even, that, not the greatest spot for the relationship to be in. So, yeah, it's a good example
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
mean, this it's really complicated, honestly. Like we think that like intimacy and sex is simple. It is and it's not because there's all these things and communication is so important.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. You said something and no, girl, I lost it. If it
Okay.
comes back, I'll come back around. It was something in that example sharing. We'll come back
Okay.
around.
Okay. So I think we might need to do a little explanation of like what we mean, just in case someone coming into the conversation is not sure about the difference between
Mm.
desire, libido, arousal, and attraction. How do you define those? You don't have to get like textbooky, but like
Mhm.
how do you
Yeah.
define them? Yeah.
Yeah, so I use desire and libido interchangeably. And with that, it's really around here, I'm about to use the word to describe the word, but it's the interest to engage in sexual activity. A lot of times that is, like a mental, like I'm interested in this, I want to do this, I'm thinking about that. And that's your desire. Arousal is the physiological response. As we said before, you can have desire without arousal. You can have arousal without desire. And that's not a problem. Attraction, there's different ways that I think about attraction. So there's attraction to people like romantically. You might be attracted to someone, but you also might have more like a sexual or erotic kind of attraction. Sometimes people are attracted to, maybe it's not necessarily like based on gender or like genitals. It could be that you're desired or excuse me, attracted to maybe certain energy. So some people are attracted to like masculine energy. They may say, I'm queer. I really like people that are masculine. And that might be someone that falls on the trans spectrum. That could be a man. That could be a masculine presenting woman. Like that, you might find yourself attracted to them. And then on the other side, people might be attracted to femininity, where they're just attracted to feminine energy. Uh, Attraction, it always, again, even that is very complex. And I think, what was the last one you said?
You did.
Attraction, desire,
Desire, libido,
libido.
arousal, attraction. You got them. Yeah, you did that.
Oh, okay,
Mhm.
girl. I like that.
Mhm. Okay, because I just think that's also important because we just kinda, like, dove right in.
We sure did. You mentioned too, I know earlier you were talking about fantasies. Fantasies are something else that are really interesting to explore. Sometimes people have fantasies that they just want to keep as a fantasy. And for them, the fantasy of really using your imagination, kind of creativity to experience certain sexual interests in a way that's really safe and really affirming. So I think fantasies are really powerful, and sometimes people have shame around their fantasies. So it's just even exploring that, shame is man-made. Your fantasy is your space. Fantasy could be really powerful for people that are queer, that are in monogamous relationships. Because if you're queer, you might be attracted to a variety of different bodies and people rather, and you might decide, you're committed to this partner, and this partner is cisgender or trans, like wherever it is, they're not going to represent all of your attraction. So sometimes fantasy can be really important in affirming of someone's identity. So I think when you were mentioning fantasy earlier, I was like, but that thought
Yeah,
came
I'm
back,
like,
girl.
this even just having this conversation, I'm, like, unlocking some things up here too, just, like, there's so much that, like, really is involved here, and want to talk a little bit more about what you think might be some contributing factors to mismatched libidos.
Okay. So the first thing that comes to me would be around like scripting. Uh, some things are just like, oh, let me focus on one. So some things can be scripting where back to like our socialization, we kind of sometimes fall into scripted behaviors. Someone mentioned to me earlier, or a couple days ago, they were like, I feel like people are performing
Hmm.
roles a lot of times in social situations. You're just kind of like, and a lot of it, you performance is kind of put on us. We talked about identity. People perceive you based on how you look. They're kind of gonna, so we show up kind of to act. We're all actors in some way. So sometimes those, like if you're scripted a certain way, then that could be a contributing factor for sure. Not to some races and some groups are hypersexualized. So then people are also kind of that could be a factor that comes in. Also, there's this concept in relationships, the Gottmans talk about this, where they talk about like turning towards and turning from in relationships. So that can also be a factor where it's like, are we coming together to talk about this, or do we turn? Does the issue now become in between us, and now we have this they have this discrepancy, and we're disconnected in our relationship. So it's pushing us further away and making the gap wider as opposed to coming together. Stress for sure, as you mentioned earlier, professional, financial stress, can definitely, and people respond differently to it. Like someone's stress may make them, what you said, are kind of like around that coping, which I would say isn't. I want to make it seem like it's good or bad, like 100% bad. Like sometimes, like some people use that as a healthy way to manage and just to kind of address things. I think it's important to know what that is though, and kind of track that. So in some relationships, I think that could be a factor too. Where it's just like we handle our stressors really differently, or our stressors are handling us. And now one person might become hypersexualized, and that can cause an issue for sure. Hmm. That's what I got.
She needs space too, right? She needs space too. So they met the academic you in the first episode. So today they get to see more of the other parts of you, right? So, say people are in a relationship, they are committed to being with one another, but they're going through this stressful period of time and the libidos are mismatched and they want to get their desire back. What are some of the things that you
Mhm.
would recommend for them? So, talk a little bit about the impact of unequal emotional labor and mental load and how that impacts relationships and desire.
Oh, okay, this is a good one. This is a good one. That mess can lead to
Say
resentment.
that.
Just yeah, yeah. So there's, things that are going to support desire are definitely going to be friendship, right? Fondness, like having fun together, feeling like the person that you're having sex with. Espe- I'll think about this from like a long term relationship, right? Like we have fun, we are friends. At the end of the day, we're on the same team. When you start to feel like that, you don't feel that way because you're like, every time there's an issue, I have to handle it. Every time that everyone's calling me, looking for me to do this, I got to get the kids here. I got to get to work. I got to get food on the table. I got to do all these things. And now you coming over here and you wanting something from me, or you're expecting me to give you something. Like that could be, not feeling appreciated, feeling undervalued, feeling like all you want me to do is go work and provide. You see, I'm trying to be fair with
Yes.
our genders here. And then now to like give you something like that can also feel like people feel like they're
Yeah.
being used. So the resentment is not tied to a gender. Like there's not one gender that like owns that. Um shoot, yeah, that's gonna that can certainly affect desire. Back to just the power dynamics. Like how is power moving through the relationship? Does one person have too much on their plate to where it feels like, like kind of what I'm saying, like resentment's gonna get in the way. People are not gonna we're not feeling turned on, we're not feeling aroused, we're not feeling cutesy, we're feeling
Yeah.
upset. Like we're feeling bad. So those things it's not gonna doesn't
Yeah.
work
And
out too
even
well.
sometimes that unequal load can change the relationship dynamics where instead of it being partner, it's like more parental in nature. Go ahead.
Okay, so let me tell you, that happens a lot in what I was reviewing some of my notes and things and different articles I've been reading for school, just preparing for our talk today. And one of the things that I saw was like in African American relationships, and one of the studies I was looking at, the folks that reported like higher relationship satisfaction, their relationships were more egalitarian. and they had a little more fluidity in terms of like gender roles and division of labor, and definitely were operating the couples that were operating from that more egalitarian or from
And break
egalitarian
that down for
relationship.
anyone who isn't familiar with that terminology, egalitarian.
Totally. So egalitarian is going to be different than like that hierarchical where there's just like a strong leader and then the people in the house are like subservient. So like, typical kind of way you might look at it is like the man is the head and the house just falls under a strict patriarchal framework. Now, one thing these scholars did say is for the black couples in this relationship, if that is the way that they both wanted their relationship to go, then that was not an issue. Like, so this isn't me saying like all relation, the man should, if you checked out when I said patriarchal, come check back in. I'm not saying that's a problem. If you and your boo get down like that, y'all are good. If someone in the relationship though wants a different power structure, then that's then okay. But if both people in a relationship are like, I'm cool with doing, if the masculine person in a relationship is cool with doing some things that are considered feminine, if the feminine person in a relationship is cool with doing some things that might be considered masculine, then we're falling more into this. There's a fluidity. The relationship isn't, there's not this structure hierarchical system where one person is kind of like it's their way or the highway kind of thinking.
Yeah,
Is that making clear?
yeah.
I'm trying to make it clear. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so to your point or to your question about unequal kind of division of labor and how that might shift power in the relationship and then what that could do with desire in arousal. I guess my response to that is like you might then want to look at how do we nothing's ever going to be 50-50, but how do we lighten the load? Like sometimes what that could look like, and I've seen this in sessions, is just let's get an inventory of all the things that need to be done, and then like who can do these things. Sometimes clients, sometimes people have resources to be able to like maybe get a housekeeper to come in, or maybe get some support around childcare, or maybe get some support with like if it's the lawn duty or maintenance, or maybe someone's doing certain things in a relationship that actually don't have to get done. Maybe they're just over functioning, overproducing. So just kind of when people do kind of an inventory of like where's all the energy going and having a real conversation about that in the context of like we're trying to lighten some loads here so that there's space to actually have fun. Because when we think about for me, when I'm talking about sexual intimacy and desire, I'm thinking from this perspective of like pleasure and trying to understand how do I help the people get back to pleasure? How do I help people get or even get to pleasure? Because maybe they never even got to have pleasurable sexual experiences. So it's like, what is healing and what does it look like to get people here to where they feel open, they feel pleasure, they feel safe? So like, do we need to do all these extra chores, all these extra tasks, all these extra things? Because I get curious about that. And I've seen people shift like, oh baby, like you mean to tell me if we just budget a little bit more for this thing here or we outsource some of these things, now there's more space for us just to connect and we can increase our
I love.
oh yeah. People figure out how to reallocate those resources.
Then, how can couples talk about desire, libido, and all of that without blame or defensiveness?
I love your question. I love your
Getting a
question.
or
Getting
getting
a
paid. I don't know.
Give me 1 second because my soundboard. Give me 1 second.
okay.
I hear it now too. That's awful. One moment.
Worries. Thank you. You look so cute today.
Thank you.
Thank you,
You look
girl.
so
I be
cute
trying to
today,
be
my
cute
friend.
like I'm going somewhere.
I thought you were. I thought you were.
I am on camera. I'll be right back.
Okay.
And this right here is one of the reasons why I've not yet done a recording live for real. Because I'm like, this board usually stays charged so long, and I think I took that for granted.
Mm, mm. Your setup is like nice. Your setup is like
Thank you, girl. I'll be trying to figure it out, and I be so wishy washy in my mind, be wanting to change stuff.
all part of the problem.
I know.
I think this is my third.
I think
This topic is so area,
this topic
and it's so area.
big.
It's so
Big.
I see all over.
Yeah, that's what I'm like, girl. We just talking. Like, we not in the classroom.
Or you know how
What is wrong
You
with
know
my
how-
thing? Okay, let me try. I could use the other adapter. All right, BRB.
Okay.
Make sure it's connected. This sound is not it. Hold on, I
Mm-mm.
gotta switch my settings. Jazz, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay,
I
this is
can
not
hear
I can
coming
you.
hear.
through the
I
board.
can
Yep,
hear.
hold on. Let me, I'm going to hit stop and then we are going to, is this going to let me keep this together? Hold on. Let me try one more thing. Settings. Taking its time.
All
Yes, I
good.
appreciate your patience.
But yeah, I
Any podcast,
to open a
they
podcast.
always talk
They always talk about
issues that happen. It's so
issues
like
that happen.
I feel like a seasoned
Like a
podcaster.
seasoned
This is
podcaster.
happening.
It happens. It happens. All right. I don't know why this is moving so slow because I'm in the screen that I need to change where everything is going or not going because it's definitely not. Okay. Close this and see if it's going to do it again because what just happened.
Let me
But
see.
it definitely kicked me out.
It sounds better now, though.
Okay. Right. So mission accomplished. But I was like, it literally just went to a screen and it was like, sorry, can't something, something, something. And I'm like, but it's still recording and pick back up in the studio. So
Yes, yes, yes,
that's what
yes.
matters. Okay.
Absolutely. And all of this, it will be fine. I knew when you disappeared, I was like, but I was like, I'm just gonna, but I was like, I'll just hold the line. That's fine. It's
Thank
all,
you.
of
I'm glad you
course.
did. Cause
But
I wasn't trying to go nowhere. It booted me out, girl.
I was
Booted
chill.
me
You'll see
out.
when you go back and look at it. You'll be like, she didn't even move. I was like, okay, I'll just I looked at my phone. I'm like, I'm just scrolling. I'm like, because I knew you were going to come back and I did not want to do anything to stop the record. I was like, I don't even want to turn my camera. I'm not touching a thing. I want this to stay
Thank
recording.
you for keeping it open. Okay.
Of course. Of course.
All right. Had I just asked the question and you were getting into answering,
Yeah.
yes, how can
Yeah.
couples talk about like desire without blame and defensiveness?
So, okay. If desire is the issue, I would approach it like I would any other issue in a relationship. The issue does not come in between the couple. Okay. So if the issue is desire, it doesn't become you have too much and that's why it's a problem, or you don't have enough. So that's why the problem. It's the problem is external. It's like the couple is a team. And we mentioned earlier about how you can collaborate and have these sexual experiences where you're both getting what you want out of it. Don't break the team. The team is the team.
Right.
The issue is the issue. The team approaches the issue. Okay, so it's like it's no different than, sometimes couples are arguing about like chores. Like I'll use a sock on the floor, for example. Well, they need to just pick this sock up. Like, I'm so tired of picking up these socks. Blah 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 blah. Oh, look at me, blah blah. Look at it is what it is. Then I was like, well, whose floor is it, and whose responsibility is it to keep the floor clean? If we say this is our house, this is our floor, then it's like, okay, like you grab the sock, I grab the drawers, whatever's on the floor. Like I'll do this, you do that, and now our floor is clean. If it's around, I'm like, usually in session I use a mop example. I think cleaning the floor is better than a sock, but follow me. It's us.
I'm
It's
going
our
with you.
it's us as a team. We keep the house clean, we keep our sexual energy flowing, we keep the bills paid, like we it's the we-ness. So really approaching issues is like this is a we problem and we can find a solution is going to set folks up much better than you're the problem, you find the solution,
Yeah.
because
And that's
you're
going to kill desire even more.
girl, it's gonna kill desire, it's gonna increase conflict, it's gonna be a whole thing. It's something when I'm at work, I'm listening for those we moments,
Yeah.
just how much we-ness is in the relationship. And I bring up the floor thing because I mean, oftentimes, a lot of times my clients are coming in because they're having conflict issues and then they're also having desire issues, right? So then it's like you see these kind of comparisons like, well, how are we approaching conflict in general, and then looking at, and then how are we approaching these sexual issues? And if I'm seeing a lot of finger kind of pointing or even a lot of shame, like it's I'm the problem. Like, the house is a mess because I'm inadequate with my role as a mother, or I'm my role as a wife, or our sex isn't great because I'm inadequate with my role as a lover, right? Or my role as a, whatever your expectation is of yourself. So moving from that to like we would be one of them. Curiosity is another one. Just being really
Yep.
curious. Like
Yes.
really, really, really curious what feels good, what doesn't, what don't I like, why don't I like that? Especially if it's one person likes something and the other person doesn't like it. For the person that doesn't like it, is there any willingness for them to engage with this thing? Will they at least talk about it? Like, can you talk about the thing you don't want to do? Or is
Yeah.
there still space for us to talk about it because you don't want to do it and now we're just stuck? So sometimes that openness to explore, we find that you might be able to engage to a degree and maybe you don't have to go beyond your boundary, or maybe you just don't do it. But does that mean that your partner now doesn't get to explore, or is there space? We talked about fantasy, we talked about, so you can make your relationship the way you want to make it, and you can define the boundaries of your relationship in ways that work for you, because there's no cookie cutter relationship. So the talk from a place of curiosity and non-judgment can help people figure out what are their boundaries in their relationship. And that's a way to move from the blame of it all. Uh, yeah, I like
One more thing on blame, right? What if one or both, or however many people are in the relationship, what if um they believe in like radical accountability and somebody's gotta take the blame? Somebody's gotta be responsible. What does that look like?
Can you say more about that?
So it could be like the people who, let me see. Where something bad has happened. Neither one of you have asked for this bad thing to happen, but it has shown up at the door, right?
Right.
Like the person who has to always have to have somebody to blame. So if it's not them, then it's you.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
What does that then do for desire and like intimacy? How can that impact the relationship?
The way that I'm thinking about this is not the way you're answered that you're asking it, which is why I
Well, tell
needed
me
to.
what you're thinking, and it might be real good. I can roll with you.
If that's your thing, if that is attached to desire for you, like if finding a person or an object to say like you are wrong or you were to blame, and that makes you feel aroused, and that's something to explore. That's something to
Okay.
explore,
But you gotta
because
let your partner know.
you have to let your partner know. So that even the word explore, right? And we're talking about this in, did you hear that?
Yes, it's cute. You
My
probably
little,
heard my little one chomping over.
I didn't even hear. I didn't even hear it. I know he's ready to be let out. I'm gonna go get him in a second. Uh, Um, but so yes, explore with your partner. It's something you could explore. Now, if it's coming and it's also, I'm attaching it to if the person that if they like that and that makes them feel good in certain contexts, then I would say that's something you can explore, because you could talk about explicit power exchange and negotiations around that when it comes to sexual intimacy. I mean, there's a whole literature, a whole community around kink and consensual power exchanges and explicit agreements around that. I don't think that was the way you were asking it, but that is
You're
that.
right, but that's also a way that
So that is
hopefully
a
that was helpful
way.
to somebody.
Right, that is a way. Now the other piece to that is if it's something that they're doing, but maybe they don't feel good about it, or maybe they are big on accountability and they are really wired to feel like I can't be made whole about this infraction unless I can
Yeah.
identify. I mean, if I think about it from a strengths perspective, that could be really aligned with social justice. So I wouldn't even frame that as necessarily a problem, but I would be curious to look at how is that impacting the partner. And like, what does, I'm also thinking, I am so curious about what do you get out of that about finding? Because sometimes there's no one to blame, or the thing to blame might be more of a ideology or like a concept. It may not be that you can find an individual person to blame. I'm curious. I would be curious about what that kind of, that wiring of, like, that need that to, like, I gotta blame someone. How is that connected to desire? Because on the surface, I don't really see it, but I think talking more about it, I might be able to see it, and then if there is a way to reframe that to where it could feel good for all parties involved, then we can that's why I said that's something to explore. Like, I certainly wouldn't say, like, "Oh, that's a problem," but it's just like, how do we explore this in a way that's like, it just feels, "Ooh, he's mad, girl." He's mad. He run the house. This dog run the house.
He said, "How dare you?" And I hear you out there.
I know he do. He's fine.
Yes. And on the other side of that, I could see how that could definitely kill a vibe. You know what I mean? Kill that desire. Cause again, that's, I just like, or maybe like encroaching. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's, I don't know the words, but it's like, it's like dominance and not in a good way.
Not in a good way, right. So and then in too much of it, it's like we can roll into unhealthy and even abuse. So and these things are
Right.
all exist on a spectrum. So this is even when I asked it, I was
Right.
like, "I need more information," and then it's like, well, I'm slow to label things as problematic without actually being like doing a proper assessment. And
Hmm.
sometimes people, like I said, in the right context, like if that's your thing, like if you're just like, I
Yeah.
want to be able to use my voice in this way, and I feel, around this dominance. Like if I'm in this dominant role, if I like feeling in control. I like feeling a lot of times people that operate in that way like to take care. They like to nurture. The opposite of that, the person that like oftentimes falls under the submissive side of things wants to be taken care of, wants to just be able to turn their brain off. A lot of people that are into submission are the decision makers, are always thinking, are the ones. So it's for some folks, they enjoy, in certain contexts with people that they feel safe with, an intimate relationship with someone where they feel loved and they feel secure and they feel valued, play around with those roles. And you can say, you know what, at work, in the office, at the research lab, at wherever, I'm always in control. Everyone is
Right.
looking at me to make the play, to do the thing, to save the day. And for me, when I come home and I'm in my sexual space, I just want to be loved on. I want to be cherished. I want to be adored. I don't want to think. I just want to experience pleasure. And then, like, okay, someone that likes that, they may like that person that has that high level of structure and accountability and maybe even somewhat can be even like maybe rigid in certain areas. That doesn't mean bad. It's like you might be like, so again, explore and bring it in. If like, how can we play with these things if you've identified that there's a relationship between this part of your personality and desire. So I'm curious. If it's a link, I say play with it. If it's not and it feels really problematic and then it's like, eh. And problematic in the sense that you're violating someone else's right. Like, if your desire also comes at someone else's like pain or and pain that they don't want to experience, pain that does not feel pleasurable for them, their disempowerment, like things like that, then we might be talking about something else. Like yeah.
That's good. That's good. Thank you for that. Thank you. So, because the fluctuation of desire can change in a lot of relationships because, if you're in a longer term relationship, you're going through many seasons and different types of things happen in life, right?
Mhm.
So, for anyone at any point, right, is who we're talking about now, because this can happen if it hasn't happened, if it already has, and you're trying to find your way back. How do people find their way back to like that desire, that safe space where they have the connection that they truly desire?
Yeah. So I like that you're bringing it back to like the changes, um, because before I answer your question, I'll say this. A lot of us were, including myself, kind of raised or socialized to believe that you lose your virginity. Earlier, I think I
That
said,
word "lose"
yeah,
is
losing,
mhm.
right? Lose your virginity. And I appreciate I might have to get him, girl. I
Go
appreciate
I mean, if
the
if you need to go
yeah,
get him, go get him,
let me do a
girl.
quick pause. I'm just gonna take him out.
Okay.
"We not going nowhere.
That's what you think.
You can come here." Okay. Alright,
Yeah,
thank you.
I got 2 little ones. One is literally sitting on my
Sweetheart.
feet right now.
I should have kept him here. Sometimes he tries to be neighborhood patrol, so I was just like, let me put him.
He would
But
have been in the window.
yeah, but you know what? He could have sat in one because no one's really outside because of the snow. He likes to be by the window and then he'll bark at everybody he sees, and nobody wants to hear
Mhm.
that. But yeah, he'll be all right. Uh, okay, you had just asked me about like
How to,
rebuilding.
like, get the desire back, rebuilding.
Mhm. And then, okay, so how to get it back. I was on a roll too. Debuts. That's what I was saying. Okay, so we have you decide this idea, right? You lose the virginity. Flawed for a lot of different reasons. The one that I'll focus on, at least to start, is around the concept like it's like a one and done. Like you lose it and then you're done. So you're
Disposable.
I wasn't even thinking about it that way, but yes, 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 yes. The other piece of it is we're like novelty and desire are really important. Like we like novel, we like new experiences. And if you think about the first time that you have sex, your sexual debut, you get to have more than one debut. Like can have debuts throughout your life. As we said earlier, body changes. You have different experiences. Some of us are going to experience menopause. Just because you go through menopause doesn't mean that you're no longer a sexual being. You no longer have desire. Your body doesn't get to feel pleasure. So it's coming back to, okay, desire has fluctuated. You don't know where it went. You don't know what turns you on anymore. You don't know what gets you excited. This is an opportunity to explore new debuts. This is an opportunity to see what can feel pleasurable for me now. What do I like? What am I not into? You can explore that with your partners. You can start to explore that even with yourself. Sometimes people are into erotica. Sometimes people are in. You can audio listen to things. You can have different experiences. Join different communities. There's a variety of ways that people can start to explore and just open themselves up to things just from a space of curiosity. Like you can just because you can learn about something doesn't mean you have to do it. It doesn't mean it's your thing. But if you're looking for kind of like what is going to help me feel like I can get back in track, or what is something that's going to help me even start a new track, um, I try to open it up to where you get to have more experiences and more debuts. And it's not just, like I said, this one time thing. So I appreciate kind of moving away from losing virginity. Definitely the things you said around value and disposability and, giving something up, taking something. I think all of those kind of like those ways of thinking really can drain like your resources as it comes to desire. So I'm like, let's like stop those energy drains and kind of find some things to
Yeah.
kind of supplement. Just like look for supplements to desire can help for sure. And then I would also say talk. Some folks need to talk to their doctors. Sometimes there are just biological things that are happening. So, check in with doctor or check for your overall wellness, overall stress, things like that. And we mentioned earlier, like anxiety. And there's other non-sexual things that could be happening that could be draining that. Relationship health is another thing. Is there relationship violence? Like, does this feel, is the relationship stable? Like, those things can also drain desire. So, if you're trying to get things back on track, kind of want to look at a holistic assessment of what's happening here because there could be multiple reasons why you're just not feeling it anymore. Unfortunately, what stops people sometimes from getting into that exploration phase is that they're stuck at the shame. They're stuck at like it's and you can't really problem solve from there. Like if the problem is you, then you can't that doesn't give you much space to start to look for a solution. So if you're able to like move into that kind of solution thinking, curiosity, exploration, that creates now a whole new like multiple different perspectives to look at this, and you can make movement there. Like it's hard to move from shame. Or yeah.
Yeah, I love that you introduce the medical piece of it, right? Because there are really and truly sometimes things that are really medical that
Mm,
are happening. And sometimes people don't realize it. And then even just mental health can have
there's
an impact on there. Anxiety, depression, if there's grief, any type of loss, just different things that have happened in the relationship. And maybe things aren't going the way that you all planned. I like that. And then this notion of debuting. I
mm,
like this because even if you're in a long-term marriage, right? We like if our cells are regenerating every 7 years, and we're becoming different versions of ourselves, it is an opportunity to reintroduce your partner to who you are and to be open because as surely as you are changing, so is your partner. And you both need the freedom to explore and connect with the new versions of self.
Absolutely.
So really and truly, I think it's fun. You can get to have a new person
That
without
is it. No,
having a new person. But
that is it. That is it. Like,
I'm here for it.
that is why this is one of my favorite things to talk about because it renews, it regenerates. It's a debut. What are your new sexual debuts? What are you excited about trying? Especially when you remove the expectation. Like you could try it. If it doesn't go the way you expected, if you thought it was going to be fun and it wasn't fun, when you're intentional about it, you feel secure with the person, you feel good with yourself, we can start to think about this in an exciting way. Like and sometimes when I talk to people, I get really excited. I'm like, oh my God, like you can have fun with your sex life. And and I do remember and I so appreciate you even saying like, let's slow it down a little bit because sometimes, we gotta slow it down so that we can address the reasons why people might not understand or might not feel like when I say, oh, this is so fun, some people are like, so it's like, well, we could slow down. We could talk about, because there are real reasons why some people are not super excited about the topic or some people that is very valid. And I don't want to be offensive or to seem as if like I'm just indifferent to things that people have gone through. Like I understand it I understand it. I'm open to grow and learn more though. So I don't want to make but I also get excited when I think about how we can heal and how our relationships can be transformed when we approach things with curiosity, when we're moving from shame and doubt, when we're coming from a place of acceptance and self-love and not thinking about worth, and like and feel like you have to work for, to be good enough for a pleasurable sex life. And just like you get to have a pleasure, like you get to have that. You deserve to be in a relationship and community of people that affirm that. And the person that you're sharing your body with, you deserve to be in those commitments where they also respect that and they want to treat you with love and respect. And there's a mutual interest in getting to the kind of experiences that feel good for everybody involved. That excites me. Like that gets me super hyped. So I was like, girl, I'm so excited to come and talk to you about this on here today.
Also, what I just heard you address is about like moving away from performance and
Mhm.
really being present, creating a safe space, talking about the things. And the old folks used to say, if you can't talk about it, then you shouldn't be doing it. Right. And there's something to that, There is something to that. Like it's very like old school, but even sometimes the people that's saying it, they don't even be talking.
Yes.
That's a separate
Yeah.
thing. But I mean, they were onto something. And I think the more that you can talk about it, I don't mean that you have to like analyze it like to the ground where it's like no longer enjoyable, but there are certain things that should be discussed. They can be discussed in a way
Mhm.
that is that's still like sexy, that's still engaging, and it might be uncomfortable to start, but
Totally.
you gotta communicate. Like it's another form of intimacy. It requires vulnerability. And yeah, you have to understand your partner. Like so that needs are being met and they're not looking elsewhere for it. Or if it's a space where they don't feel safe to talk about it, then they go and sneak,
Yes,
which
exactly.
is also very damaging. Go ahead. You go
No,
ahead.
I was gonna say I'm doubling down on what you're saying, girl. I'm like to all parties involved, to all 'cause you get in and there's a thing with doing with the sneaking is now we're moving outside of the bounds of consent. So if you're getting sexual needs met outside of your committed relationship, now we're having an issue with consent because your
Say
partner.
more. People might not think this is a consent violation.
Yeah, so you think about it, if we're in a relationship and the terms of our relationship are that we are in a monogamous relationship. This is what we have agreed to. This is relationships are sets of agreements. So we've agreed to this. And if someone in the relationship steps out to get a need met, whatever, we're talking about sex, emotions, and all these things. The person that is still in the relationship that hasn't stepped out, they didn't consent. They did not consent to be in a relationship with someone who has a secondary partner. If you want to be in a relationship where there are multiple partners, you want to explore open relationships, you want to explore polyamory, you are welcome to do that. Folks have to be on board. The people you're in relationships with, they need to be able to agree to that. So it's just, and I mean, I'm saying need because, as I said before, I promote consent. So I'm here to
Hmm.
work with you. So you're right. Sometimes people don't think about it that way. And even me, I'm not. I work with folks who have been impacted by affairs, either people who have engaged in them, people who their
Hmm.
partners have. So, and there it's really complex. There's really complexities, and it's certainly not something where I could just say all good, all bad. But when I talk about consent, like, this is a consent violation. And if you fall under the type of people that, like, value consent, and you consider yourself a consensual, a person that operates from that way, then you gotta, how do we reconcile that then? Like, how are we saying I support consent and I also support side quests and side missions? We gotta talk about that. We gotta talk about that. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Side quest is crazy. But it's real. It's real.
It is real, girl.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So speaking of real, how does faith intersect with like stress, embracing and embodying like your sexuality? Like where do you think how those things all intersect?
Yeah, yeah, faith is really interesting. So I guess this with the stress piece, right? It can be really helpful for stress management. Faith can give people just a sense of purpose, grounding, connection, even ties to identity. So there's a lot of positives and things from that, right? Even in terms of relationship, like, align when couples are aligning on their faith and their values, religion, like, that can be really supportive for the relationship. There's the other piece where we talked about messages. Sometimes people get negative uh messages around sex from their religion, and that can cause distress for sure. Uh, there it also, though, could, um and so I don't want to say can be sources of empowerment, but I do know I was reading something where it was a study with black gay men, and it was a qualitative study, and some of the men were talking about how they received these negative messages and it caused distress, but then they also engaged with the literature and were able to find their be able to find other scriptures and things are more balanced. So so I appreciate the question because it's not, I think sometimes in, like, the popular culture, we might hear, like, the people from with certain faith, religious practices rather, are like like anti-sex or anti, and that's not always the case. I find that things can be really highly individualized. So even as a clinician, I get curious about that. Um, and then I would also say, oh, no, I think I'm good. I think I might have another thought, but I wanna hear what you're gonna say because you start talking about, ooh,
Yeah.
girl, I got 3 things to say.
No, I was just also thinking about what you were saying about how sometimes, well, obviously, the grounding in like identity. I think that's a huge part of it. And sometimes people they're looking for an identity, and sometimes that can happen through relationships and sex as well. So I think
Mhm.
faith is a great place to ground, understand what you believe in, what goes back, and this goes back to what we were talking about earlier about that sense of self and self-respect and self-value and all of that. And
Mhm.
where that comes from. And so faith can definitely be a source for that. And obviously, I could see how that could trickle into your decision making, how you view sex, when and how you engage with sex, and so on, and frequency. There was something else. Oh, shoot. Did I lose it? No, I didn't lose it. You were saying how there's not enough direct talk about sex, like
Oh,
from the
yeah.
church. And a scripture that came to mind, some people might not like that I say this, but the people fail, perish for lack of knowledge, right? And so you can't expect the inexperienced to go out into the world and be prepared to deal with sex
Speak on it.
and navigate that if there's no conversation other than you just don't do it or you wait. But meanwhile, they're having all of these desires, they're having these thoughts and urges, right? And So then people separate that. And I think that's sometimes why we see so many scandals because people are suppressing what's natural rather than someone normalizing it to say, yes, that is normal what you feel. And this is what a healthy relationship looks like. And sometimes people encourage, I might be going into a whole different area here. It could be a different episode in itself. But I think sometimes people are encouraged to get married too early to avoid
Mm,
sexual sin, but
yeah.
then they go into all of this distress because they're motivated by sex. They really and truly got married because they want to have sex. And I know someone who it was shared with me that someone was like, yeah, that was their motivation for really getting married at a young age, being like 19 or 20
Mm,
and never understanding true intimacy and like
mhm.
building that, right? And the impact that it can have. Because then what happens, because now they're miserable because they never really belonged together to begin with. And now people are saying, well, y'all together now.
Hey,
And so now they feel pressured. And then you have that divorce, all of the
yeah,
stickiness around that, right? And people giving their interpretations about what it is and what it shouldn't be when I think that's one of those things that you have to really and truly talk to God about. Uh, And especially if you're in a relationship where you've given all that you can give and done all that you can do.
right.
It's not working out. I don't think anyone should feel trapped in that way. I think you definitely need to pray for yourself, pray for your partner, pray for the marriage and whatever the things are that are coming against the 2 of you, and I love also what you said about the, working together to get to the problem.
Mhm.
So y'all are the base, right? Like, so they're the base. That energy shouldn't be pointed here. It should be pointed up here to
Absolutely.
solving that problem. And for some people, they're better people apart, and there's nothing that is unredeemable when it comes to faith. And so I know I said
Exactly.
a whole lot in there, but
No, you did. You was cooking though. You were cooking. I agree with you. That could be a whole you should get in your
that's
bag
what I
on
said.
that's the whole thing. The thing though that the thing oh, I'm losing it. The kind of where you were landing around all things being I think you said redeemable not redeemable. Ah, I'm losing it.
I mean, I used that was the word I used.
Okay, no, I like that. I love that. I do love that. I think that aligns with the concept like repair, right? When we were talking about relationships. But then also we don't like to think about it this way, and I'll say it. There's an ending point for every relationship. It just is what it is. It is
Smile because it made me think about this clip that I did, talking about expired love and staying well after the expiration date.
been there, been
It's real
there.
sour,
What did
like that
Kamala say?
milk.
I ain't going back. Okay, been there. I ain't going back. It happens. It happens. Relationships have endpoints. You might be married, and it could be till death do us part. And depending. And when I say endpoints, I'm talking in this realm, right? Like what happens after we leave here. I'm not speaking about that. I'm talking about in the here and now. Everything's going to come to an end. Oh no, he ain't tripping. I love it. I feel here. We're here with it.
That's why I was like, girl, it don't even a dog bark, I do not flinch.
I love that. I love that. Um, relationships will end. And understanding, we talked earlier about some of these expectations and things that even just on relationships. And there's this, idea out here in the popular culture that you have one true love and that, your mission in life is to find that person, connect with them, and y'all gonna ride that thing till the wheels fall off. It don't matter how they treating you, it don't matter how you feel, it don't matter how many times you done begged. It doesn't matter none of that. You just hold on to the wheels fall off. Sometimes you need to take the exit route and like
You getting dragged.
drag left round and you think about and I'm gonna lean on I might have to lean on you a little bit from this, but you have to, you think about the faith, you think about, what someone may feel that that God spirit, however they're making sense out of it, put them in this position. Like you're supposed to be getting dragged up and down and feeling I don't know if that's like, I don't know. I don't know if that's where you got and how long are you gonna be in that? Like, and then how do you get out of that? Like, are you just supposed to stay in that? Like, and then we look at if it's not help. So these are kind of some of the things that I start to consider. And then you think about I did this training years ago. It was really powerful. It was a Muslim woman and she was talking about like Muslim faith and sexual education. And something she said that really stood out to me was around values based decisions. So
Mm,
when yeah, and you just thinking getting really clear on, like, what are your values as you understand it with your faith or your religious like, whatever your values are rooted in, and then you kind of think about that and then kind of look back at the relationship and now we can have a conversation like, is this in alignment with my values? Like,
mhm,
are we on
mhm,
or is there alignment here? And if there's not, then start to think about like how do I need to move in ways where I'm feeling more aligned. I'm feeling like what I'm living is truly embodying the word or where we know whatever it is that you're grounding your faith in.
mhm.
Sometimes get so blended up, they're so especially in the example you're giving, someone who's really young, and when they make this decision, I think sometimes folks get so blended up and then they don't even realize they're so disconnected. So it's just like trying to help folks get oriented to your faith, oriented to yourself. And, then from there you might be able to see just clearer, is this a relationship that's really serving you? Is this a relationship where you're gonna actually be able to have a thriving sexual health? Sexuality is tied just a part of your health. So
It
is this
is, yeah,
yeah, is this relationship fostering that or is it not? And you said
yeah.
pray, get right with God, get with your support, the breakdown of that relationship, the divorce, it's not an indictment on like who you are as a person or
But a lot of people believe it is.
no, I know, and it's heartbreaking. I guess in clinical and non-clinical space, it still really it gets me. Like it gets me. I show up differently though if it's like a homegirl compared to a client. That makes sense, but it's just either
Absolutely.
way, it's heartbreaking to. It requires, I guess, for me, both sides patience. Honestly, just kind
Yeah.
of patience. People are going through what they're going through.
I love that you brought up the alignment, right? Because, like, I reflected a lot on myself, right?
Yeah.
And I used to struggle when if people would say, well, you need to check their fruit.
Mm,
And I wasn't as tapped in then. And I'm like, they literally just meant like the fruits of the spirit. Like, how does this align or does it align with the fruits of the spirit? Is it given that First Corinthians, love is patient, love is kind, love, all those things. So I think it took me a long time to get that because I used to be, I won't say used to be, but I could be a very literal person. We're
mhm,
like, "No, I want you to say what you mean and don't imply it because I will fill it in with something else. I want us to be clear. Like, I wanna make sure I understand what you're saying and I'm operating accordingly." So, I love that notion of that, like, does this align? And a lot of times, like, even though it's really hard, was God even involved in your decision to pursue this person?
right.
And so, yes, you may have followed the steps, but what was your driving motivation? And if we go back to the example I use, how sometimes people are pushed to avoid sexual sin, well, that's already telling you what's driving it.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
then, did y'all really belong together?
Right,
I don't know. Or
right.
even if it's not in the church setting at all, but like say you come from a family that has a Christian background and you're older and you decide to get married, but like you didn't have a godly pursuit,
Mhm,
like a
mhm.
godly dating period. And then, sometimes we blame God for things. How could you let this happen? Because we're looking for somebody to blame you. And sometimes we got to look back at our choices, our decisions. And that type of radical but non judgmental type of accountability to look at self and to look at others, I think is what can really help people to heal and understand what their role was in the relationship, the breakdown of the desire, the disconnection, right? What were some of the things I probably should have had more boundaries. I should have spoken up more instead of just going along to keep the peace and things like that.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. The having that kind of question allows like, the reflection you're talking about.
Mhm.
But I would even say, like, having the courage just it takes courage, I think, for some folks to even reflect, to look back and reflect with that lens, because even in that, it's moving away from, "I'm the problem." It's like you can look at the behaviors and say, "Next time this comes around in my next relationship, in my next opportunity, I'm going to honor my feelings. I'm going to express what I need." And I encourage folks to do it because I say, it's on you do the expression. You can't control how it lands, but you honor self, you honor what needs to be communicated, and then you get the data. Like you say it, and now
Come on.
you can see
Come
how it lands, see how they respond, and that's gonna help you determine, like, yeah, this is the person that got put into my life that is going to walk alongside me as I go into this next phase, and I experience this healing, and I experience this love, and I experience but it doesn't just happen. Like, you have to do your part too, so I so appreciate the way that you're encouraging people to look back because it's moving now we can do something with it. We can get information and we can move, which we have to move past the shame and you gotta move past that so that you can get the data points that you need to do better. So I love that. It's like you can look back and move forward. It's very Sankofa. We're looking back, we're moving forward. We're not looking back and staying in it. I get if you gotta look back and you're down, we're human. We get to be depressed a
Yeah.
little bit. We get to, you can mourn, especially you're talking about divorce. You mourn, but you're not I encourage folks, or even the way I think about it is like you're not gonna just stay in it. Like what are the nuggets that you take forward? 'Cause you got more than one true love, one true like that's not the case. We can connect with a variety of people, and the way you're making a good solid connection is exactly what you're describing. Speak, assert yourself. Be drawn to the people that are drawn to you when you're showing up as yourself. If you're showing up as
Authentic
yourself
self.
and they're
Yeah.
not, exactly, if you're being your authentic self, the people that are gonna be for you, they're gonna come. And the ones that ain't, they're not. And that's cool. We don't, it might sting, but let it go. Cause you don't want to sign yourself up to be having to be in this. You just gotta pull them and make them want you and make them want you. No, no, no. Just be you. And they will the right folks for you, it's gonna come.
And see, all of that, there's attachment work, there's identity work, there's so much that's in there that's
Mhm.
really in those early formative years that people
Yeah.
don't realize. And so people are, "Ah, I don't want to blame my parents." It has a lot to do with parents and caregivers.
Low
It
key.
really
Low
and
key.
truly does.
They
It
do.
ain't
You know.
even low, it's a high key. To me, anyway, it's high key, but like you don't have to be that way. And I feel, what's the word that I want to say? I have a tender spot
Mhm.
for people who say, well, this is just how I am. Because this is a person who doesn't realize the agency that they have, and that change starts with changing perspective, being open to something else, listening to it. But for some people, it's safe, and this is what they know to navigate. And so
Mhm.
this is what they do. So you'll see people go through the same relationship over and over again, but with a different body.
Absolutely.
And it's like, you deserve it. Like, no, you don't know it, but then you're choosing not to. You're
Mhm.
choosing not to do something different. You're choosing not to give yourself a chance.
Mhm. Mhm.
I've always been, I don't even know where this has come from in me, but I'm like, I am a hopeful romantic. Like, I always have believed that, because to say hopeless romantic, that means it's not going to work out. And I forget, I was some point in my 20s, maybe late 20s, when I was like, no, I'm not a hopeless romantic. I'm hopeful.
Mhm.
Everybody that wants, like, we all deserve to be loved in some sort of way. Some people don't desire romantic love, but like, we're created for community. God is love. Like, we're created to love. We're not meant to be in isolation. A
Mhm.
lot of awful things do happen to people in this world because
Yes.
it's mind, body, and spirit. We three-dimensional. And we have
Mhm.
to recognize that there are a lot of things that are happening that we can't see in the physical, or we can't even give descriptors to or for to even try to make people understand what we may have experienced. But we all deserve it.
I
We all deserve it. Yeah. So, what's one shift that listeners can make immediately so that they can, how do I want to say it? So that they can maintain desire, feed desire, keep the flame going, create the safe space so that, intimacy can be intimate, as the
I
kids
like
talk,
that.
right?
I like that. How do I wanna okay, I'm gonna talk this out.
Go
So,
ahead.
the one thing it's so abstract, but Imma say it. The one thing I think is definitely around pleasure, and when I say for the record, when I say pleasure, that doesn't necessarily mean sex, okay? Like, I can find my okay, Imma tell you this. I like a little sweet treat. Like, I love me
Hmm.
every day I get a little sweet treat. It
Hmm.
feels really good. I like eating my little sweet treat. So I tell folks, and even, to our folks that are listening, what is your daily pleasure? Especially for people that are like, I don't deserve pleasure or I should, what is the daily thing? Something that feels pleasurable to you. You don't have to defend it. You don't have to explain. Just what is the thing and I would say, do something pleasurable every day and like be tapped in, as tapped in as you can be when you do it. Like get really it's like, notice how your body feels when you're doing whatever that pleasurable thing like, what about it is making it feel pleasurable? Is it the taste? Is it the texture? Is it the sound? Like, is it a sensation? Like, why is this thing is it the thought? Is like a state of being? Like, what a pleasurable like, you like it, but, like, why? Like, get really curious about the why. If you have a partner share it with them. Just tell them, like, my daily pleasure for the day, if you're
Hmm.
comfortable hearing it, my daily pleasure for the day. Like, I just noticed the wind hit me just right. And when I hit the little breeze and I just love feeling the air on my face. Like, my pleasure for the day was I was walking the dog and I felt that and I said, that feels really nice. You could just share it. Now, what y'all want to do with that, how you want to build from that, I'm going to leave grown folks to be grown, but your body is wired for pleasure and there are things that are happening when we start engaging
Yes.
our senses where you're like, that felt kind of good. And I mean this in not even a sexual, like outside of a sexual way. Now, you could build on those pleasures and bring those into sexual context. But the one starting point, I would say, just just make it your mission every day. I'm gonna do one thing that is pleasurable and we're gonna build on that.
Okay. Awesome. So, would you be willing to process with me one of these letters that has been sent in?
Oh my God. Yo,
Yeah, I just thought about it. I was like, oh, wait, we could do this together.
I love that. We love a listener letter. Let's go.
Okay, let's see. Trying to see if any of these. Okay. Okay. So this one says, this is anonymous. Excuse me. This is anonymous and was sent in by a woman. Dear Dr. J, I've been talking to this guy for almost 6 months. We've never officially gone on a date, but we talk almost every day. He watches all of my stories, checks in late at night, sends thinking of you texts, and gets jealous if I mention other men. But every time I ask where this is going, he
Mm,
says he's taking things slow or that he doesn't want to put any labels on it right now. I'm feeling emotionally invested, but also embarrassed because technically nothing is happening.
mm,
Am I overthinking this or am I wasting my time? There's a
something
lot
is.
going on
There's a lot going on. I mean, they say
and
nothing's
not.
exactly, exactly, exactly. I mean, because something is happening. You're back to you said that wiring. Like, there's a consistent pattern here of like these checking in, notification. I respond to no. So there is we're not labeling it. They're not there's no label, but they're in a dynamic. So that has happened. Sounds like it's the person that wrote it. It sounds like this isn't what they want. This ain't what they doesn't feel good. It sounds like this isn't doesn't it's not giving secure.
It's not.
Not giving secure. What was that last sentence they said? Am I overthinking or what was the last thing they said?
Am I overthinking this or am I wasting my time?
So I'll tell you this. I'm gonna try to reframe this. It may not be a time waste. It depends on what you do with this
with the
experience.
data.
Yeah, what you do with that data. Exactly. Because I think the reason the person wrote the letter, so they know something is off. So I think, that's a good position. The part
Mhm.
of that feels embarrassed, like, that's real. Like, I understand why this might feel embarrassing. And, like, I always appreciate when people can note, like, the different ways they feel about something. I would encourage this person not to let the embarrassment keep them in silence or isolation, Like, I wonder if there's anyone else, like if they have a therapist they're talking to, are they too embarrassed to talk about this in therapy? If you're too embarrassed to talk about it in therapy, then that might be a misfit with your therapist. Is that even a supportive person that can help you with this? Um, if you're not feeling this message person, you might need to cut that. I'm saying might be so polite, but girl, you gotta cut it off. You gotta cut it off. Look at this, doesn't feel good for you. You don't like it, and you probably are overthinking to a degree because you're probably feeling anxious because you're not getting what you want out of this. So it's like, yeah, shut this down. This is a good opportunity to practice some assertive communication. This has been really great. This is no longer serving me, like, or however you want to frame it. I'm not, this isn't what I want to do with my time. No shade, no whatever. I just told someone the other day, you got to block that person. They were like, why did I block? They didn't do anything wrong. If you're wanting to position yourself to get the kind of relationship where I'm reading in between the lines a bit, but it's not that. So I think you want someone that's going to kind of move these things along. You're trying to get into some type of commitment. I think one of the things that we haven't done anything yet, so we're not going on dates. You want to go on dates or something? Yeah, we got to you can't be open for things that you don't want and then still thinking that you're going to get the thing you want. Like, how does the thing you want know you want it when you're tied up with the thing you don't want? So end off. I know I'm coming out too.
That was good though.
I was like I'm just embarrassed. I'm not trying to like be too harsh, but you got to end the thing. Like, you can't, if you're trying to move towards relationship and commitment, then you cannot be moving in the other direction. Like, you got to end that. But I mean, yeah, you probably are overthinking because this thing is the situation's probably got you anxious. But I think, I wouldn't stop thinking about it, but I would stop engaging with that person. And then I like what you said earlier in the podcast today, where you're talking about kind of that reflection and thinking about what you're going to do differently and not from a space of being hard on yourself. And you certainly don't get bitter. Like, don't think every experience is going to be like this or every guy is like this guy. Every guy's not like that guy. Like, and if you're meeting guys that are giving you the wishy-washy, I don't know what I want or I don't this, then let that be your red flag. And we're looking for green flags. You're looking for get about them DMs. Don't get that man out your DM. It was a DMs. Close the DMs to that man. Like, close. I know it's gonna suck. It probably hurts. That's okay. Like, don't stay in a bad situation because you don't want to feel how bad it's gonna be. Let it go. Like, it's gonna suck. Buy yourself the space to grieve. You get to grieve even if this person didn't validate this as a certified relationship. You still can grieve the loss of this connection and pray, give it up to God, and keep the line open for somebody that's worth it. No shade to that man because I don't know that man, but he ain't doing right.
Not 6 months. Like, 6
I
months is
forgot about
way too
6 months.
long and to have not been on a date. So what I'm
For six
hearing,
months.
yeah, so this is somebody who you have regular consistent communication with them.
Mm-mm.
So this is giving an illusion of relationship and creating like a false sense of intimacy because there is a level of consistency. And it sounds like this is a
Mhm.
person who they're seeking a version of emotional safety to know that you're there. They're wanting to know that they still have access. I think there could also be some ego in here that, oh, I still got her. She's always going to be there. And because you've been going along to get along and not, I would assume this is what I
Yeah,
hear,
yeah, yeah.
like with the
Yeah.
type of personality, like the behavior, where the behavior is telling me this is someone who's waiting to be chosen and they like the person. And I would imagine the person has done things to make you feel connected because you're not just going to spend 6 months just to spend 6 months. And this goes to what we've been speaking about earlier and how, like, what types of beliefs shape relationships and what you believe
Totally.
about them. So this could be someone who maybe is operating more traditional and that the man has to make the first move. Also, you determine who has access and what access and how. And this is not someone based on the data, 6 months, like, yes, Y'all are checking in every day in the morning and the evening, but he's not spending real quality time with you face to face. If somebody is really and truly interested in you, and unless y'all are in a long distance type of thing or something, y'all met somewhere else and, life is just kind of hard to line up, but excuse me, y'all in the same area and not been on a date, this is where you need to say, you've pulled back. Or you might even say, we've been doing this texting thing for a minute, like, or just take it as it is. Y'all just friends, nothing
Yeah.
else. Because unless somewhere, because we don't know everything, we're just going off what's been
Mhm.
told, but 6 months, what do
6
you
months.
know about this man? And, and it doesn't mean he's a bad man or a bad person, but like, you probably are overly invested because of the illusion of the relationship, the commitment, because there is consistency. And I would wonder about the attachment style of our anonymous writer here, where, because this is kind of breadcrumby. If I just send her a
Yep.
couple texts a day, I got her. You know what I mean? She's always going to be there. So then, should I need to pull her out of the reserves, she's there. She's primed, she's ready. So this, unless this person got something else going on that's extenuating, this doesn't sound healthy. I agree with you, Jazz. It's not going the way you want it to go. And sometimes you have to tell people, like, hey, I've really been enjoying getting to know you, and time is valuable. The emotional investment is invaluable. And I just want to see if we're on the same page and wanting the same thing. So you still haven't said, what is this? You're giving them an opportunity to tell you exactly what it is. What is it that you're looking for right now? And if it
Yeah.
doesn't align, we have to be grown to be like, you know what? I really have enjoyed getting to know you, but it sounds like we want very different things. And we can be cool. It's
Mhm.
not like you're going to run into them on the street because
Girl,
you're not seeing them
stop.
now. No, I'm just saying.
I mean, you're not wrong though. I mean, I said send the
And then
goodbye
we
and the
don't know how they met. We don't know how they
yeah, we
met.
don't know. With the information with the limited information we have, I would say send the message and keep it moving. Because the thing that a few things you said stood out to me, but it sounds like
Mhm.
the person sent the letter has asked, maybe not in the most direct way or maybe the most assertive way, but it sounds like they've been asking kind of like what are we? And I'll tell you, ooh, this is what I'll be telling my homegirls. Don't give a man more than one opportunity to tell you he don't want you. Don't
Say that
if
again for the people in the
you
back.
I'm speaking to my girls. I'm sure there's another side to this, but do not let that man don't give him more than one opportunity. Like hear him clearly the first time. If he says something and it don't sound clear, you kind of confused, you need an unclear answer is a clear answer.
Hello.
Person that wants you is going to it's going to be clear. It's no ifs ands or if you if that's what like you're not like if you're I'm gonna keep it with because the person who wrote the letter is a woman. If and this she's attracted in dating men. Girl, that man, you ain't got to go and have to come and run and find him. He's gonna be coming and running and finding you. Like so, that's why I'm saying you got to cut off things with this guy because it does seem like things are a bit out of order. Like she's in some ways it sounds like pursuing the things with him, and it doesn't sound like balance or it doesn't even sound. I mean, I guess I'll say unbalanced, but unbalanced in the way that he's pursuing her. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't. That's why I said it doesn't sound like this is going the way she wants it. So I would 6 months and we still are, it's okay to move at the very least move around. Like, I don't know, is this the only person you're dating? Have you decided to be monogamous to something that's like a non-relationship? Like it's a relationship. That's why I said it's like I said, it's a dynamic, but we haven't even had there's no what is the relationship agreement? Like we're DMing, we're not going on dates, and it's been
It said
6
texting.
excuse me, we're
I think
texting.
I said, let me read it again, but I thought it was texting.
We not FaceTiming. We
And they
don't.
watch all her stories. So they clocking her, sending good morning, good evening, or, have a nice evening, those, hey, big head. I don't know. So they're observing you. They like
That's my
you,
thing. That's my
but they
thing.
don't like you enough.
No, and I mean this with love, anonymous writer. Are you getting something from him looking at your stuff? Like, do you like that? Is that reinforcing this? Is this for you? Is it making it hard? Are you telling yourself that you know he wants you because he keeps checking your stuff? Because like, dearly beloved, let that go. Like, let that go. We gotta raise the bar. We gotta raise, watch my stories and let's go out on some dates. Like, let's talk about our future. Let's see if we're aligned and you gotta be real with yourself about what do you really want? Like, are you settling for the views? Are you settling for the text messages, but really wanting more? Are you trying to control him and make him pursue you or give you the things you want? Because you have to accept where he's at too. Like, if he's in some ways has communicated that that's not what you're gonna get from me, that's not what I'm interested in, at least not right now. And if you want that right now, then you got to make the big decision to like let that go and come with peace and accept that you can't make this person love you in the way you want to be loved. And if the way that they're showing care for you is not making you feel good, move around and allow yourself to do that. It's okay for you to do that. If you're going to be the villain in his story, be the villain in his story and get him out of your stories because he don't need to be looking at your stuff. Block access from that person, move around, because we if talking about attachment, right? Like that is the, I'm not gonna be the I could be the academic way, but now I'm gonna give it
Just
to you.
say it
Like,
in say it in
right.
a homegirl way if you can.
Secure attachment is move around. like that is secure attachment. Is this working? Oh no, that ain't working. I'm securely moving on until and the beauty of secure is when you find the other person that is secure, now we can lock in. You don't have to move around because this is secure and this feels good. But hanging on to something that is not feeling secure and is not feeling good, especially in this, we're not talking about people with kids, we're not talking about people with a mortgage, we're not talking about marriage for 30 years, we're not talking about, this is text messaging and Instagram. I don't want to say stalking, but maybe voyeurism.
Monitoring,
Yeah,
watching,
monitoring. Yeah,
clocking.
like you move around,
Yeah.
move around.
Yeah, yeah, because you're absolutely right. I do think this is a form of settling. And what would happen if you were to just reclaim your time, be a little less available? I think you'd find out a lot. So because I don't know if you're holding the pattern because you're like, this keeps me connected to him.
Hmm.
Or if you're like, this is like I'm bored of this. You know what I mean? And if you just remove yourself because you don't owe this person anything and what's like really being built. And it makes me wonder about limerence. Is this a case of limerence? And you're holding on yourself, right? And you're just happy to be chosen. And limerence can be attached to or linked with attachment style, I'll say
Absolutely.
where that shows up as those types of behaviors and you're filling in the blank and that's not even what reality is supporting at all.
Mhm.
So I agree with Jazz, let it go, pull back. It wouldn't surprise me if then he's pulling up on you
Of
because you've been
course.
too available. And so some people they don't want to pull back for fear of playing games, but sometimes that pullback is going to show you what you do have or what you don't have. But either way, you'll have the facts and you will know. So if I'm no longer available to just say good morning, good evening, and he watch my stories, if he fades, well then there you go.
Mhm. Mhm.
If
Mhm.
he steps up, okay, right? So just like remember that. But I think people will continue to be overly available, hoping that that availability, that's that earning love, that's more insecure, more anxious attachment. Um, if you don't give it a chance to breathe, sometimes then you don't know, especially when it's not as substantial. Y'all are
Mhm.
texting, they're
Mhm.
story watching.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's not a real relationship. That's an illusion because of
Mhm.
the time. And I think time is one of those greatest illusions that impacts sometimes people not making the best health or the healthiest
Absolutely.
relationship decisions.
Mhm.
Because that's 6 months that he's been showing you how he is. But of course, we only have the surface.
Totally, totally. I guess the last thing I'll say about it, when you mentioned time, they mentioned the piece of them that's thinking like, am I overthinking this? Like, am I thinking too much? And I do wonder if the thought if that is connected to time at all. So to that reframing of like it's not a waste of time. Like this is not this there's a lesson in here for you. There's a nugget and I am saying stop it.
Always
Like stop the bleed. Like this is not helping you. So stop
break the
that. Break the connection. You did not waste your time. There's something in this in there's something in this for you and that is for you to figure out. But it you didn't like the situation maybe didn't isn't going the way you hoped it would go, the way you want it to go. You went through this for something, and to your point you mentioned earlier, Dr. Nicole is like, you could go through cycles. And so, like, this person may be presented with this again. This may not be the first time this person's been in this kind of situation, and it may not be the last. So, really thinking the next time you meet this kind of situation, how do you want to do it differently? How are
Yeah,
you
that's good.
yeah, but, like, not bitter. We're not going bitter, we're not going extreme, you're not going angry, but you're going informed, you're going prepared, you're going, like, aware of what you need, the ability to express it. So even my suggestion of sending a message to this person, letting them know that you have exited the chat. It's not to be petty and it's not to argue, it is to really practice that form of communication when something isn't going right for you. You can express that. Like, you can express I'm no longer interested in this, and I'm gonna, I would like to like take a step away from this. You don't have to defend it. You don't even have to go back and forth. Like you can honestly send your message. I don't want to do this anymore. In that, and say, next time when I need to express myself, maybe I'll do it earlier and see what happens. Like before this thing is like over, if that makes sense. So I'm always looking for how to we
Exactly.
move forward. It wasn't these experiences because you're to the writer of that letter, this is your first time on Earth. This is your first time having this human experience. So
And with
this
that person, yep.
and with that person, right. So you are learning the message. A lot of times the message in the lesson isn't clear until you reflect on it. You got to get out of it. And then you look back and you say, oh, that's why I was texting that guy for 6 months. And that's why I was, posting them stories and things. Cause a little part of me wanted him to see the story. Like, and that's okay. Like that is a part of that. That could be a part of it. But this is not a time waste. This is not a thing. I get the embarrassment, but don't let the embarrassment isolate you. Don't let the embarrassment push you closer to the guy. Please don't do that. Like, all right, that's
Some
it.
people
That's my end of
do.
my rant. I know. I
Yeah,
know.
that's good. That's good. Clearly, we could go on and on, but we don't know enough about this story, but it does sound like that this is not someone that's moving with intention
Right.
and that they're giving you attention and
Right.
you deserve far more. You need attention and intention.
Come on now.
And 6 months is not giving intentionality. And you have so much life to live. Like it's your life, your rules, your business, and reclaim your time.
Uh-huh.
Well, thank you for writing in, whoever you are. Thank you. That do send those in. Those will be welcomed. I have a feeling that this is going to go well beyond February. I think this is a great way for people to write in and get some opinion from people with lived experience. Some of it is also like professional
Uh-huh.
as well. Wise counsel is important in dating. And
Mm,
6 months is more than enough time for someone to know how they feel about you. And if you're still unclear, that is your answer. Now, if you haven't asked the question, it's okay to ask the question, but I think you already have an answer. Yeah.
uh-huh.
And I love what you said too, Jazz, about we use the data. We learn from every single one of these experiences. And if we only allow ourselves to be the victim, we do ourselves the disservice and we can run the risk of repeating those same unhealthy patterns over and over and over again. And that's how some people end up with a type when really sometimes we're recreating our own trauma. And that's a whole other episode with repetition compulsion in relationships.
Mhm.
Okay, so to finally wrap us up. Oh, and if you want to send in your letters, do send them to info@evolvedrjnicole.com. Okay, we'll be accepting those there. I guess if you got to send them through the DMs, I'll take them wherever y'all send them. Because I'm on all the platforms. Or if you want to leave your note in the comments down here, this is fine too. We're checking the comments and want to make sure we reply back to you so that you can get some sound, solid feedback. So, Jazz, just to wrap us up, if you could leave our audience with one powerful truth to help them to rise and thrive, what would it be?
One powerful truth. Okay, so earlier I was talking about scripts and how sometimes these scripts shape like identity. Sometimes they're influenced by race. And there's a variety of things that go into that, and they're placed on us through like talk about messages. So messages you might get from your friends or from religious leaders or other people in the community. All these external things kind of tell us how we're supposed to be. So my powerful truth is that you have the power to define your own erotic self. Like what makes you feel, what do you find good? What do you find pleasurable? What feels empowering for you? Like you get to define that for yourself. That doesn't have to come from any external force. It's all you. All roads lead back to you. I think last time I said you matter. This time it's like you get to define your erotic self. Don't let anyone else take that from you.
All right, you heard it here. It all comes back to you. So, really and truly, an intimate relationship with self, understanding your values, your value,
Mhm.
self respect, confidence, what you want, knowing what matters to you, and being authentic to that. Seems
Wow.
like really and truly that's the key to having the ultimate intimate relationship. All right, audience. Yes, yes. Well, thank you again for being here. It's always a great time whenever you and I talk in general. So I'm glad to be able to have you back here again to talk about this and maybe again in the future. Who knows? Who
Who
knows?
knows? It's always
Yes. And if y'all want to see future Dr. Northcross back here again, let us know. And if you got questions for her, I mean, that's the perfect reason to have her come back, even if it's just for a moment, a segment. We can absolutely do that. But this is where we're going to shift to you. We want you to reflect. Where in my life am I operating in survival mode? How have stress and responsibility reshaped my relationship with desire? And am I treating my body as a problem or as a source of information? And then take action. So you're going to identify one small stressor that you can soften or eliminate this month. Then we want you to create a moment of embodied rest where there's no productivity attached, where you just get to be present. And we want to replace any of that self-doubt or questioning of what's wrong with me with what is my body responding to. So we want to bring together that body awareness with emotions and what's happening and connecting it to your lived experiences so that you are connected with you and you understand the experience that's happening. And so for your affirmation, my body is wise, my desire adapts to protect me. I choose compassion, rest, and safety as pathways back to connection. Or as Jazz said, back to you. All roads lead back to you. Thank you for joining again for another episode of Rise and Thrive with Dr. J. Nicole. Special thank you again to Jazz Lamb for joining us here. And send in your letters. We want to hear from you. Make sure you shop the merch. Go to www.evolvewithdrjnicole.com. Go to the podcast, click shop the merch. We have all the things that you can need. If there's some things that you want to see types of merch, let me know. We could definitely make that happen. So keep rising in faith and keep thriving in purpose. And we will see you next week. See you next time.